TYT Sports, Ben Mankiewicz, Jason Rubin and Francis Maxwell. I think Ben's on the phone to Obama or something like that. What's going on?
I'm calling Michael Schur because he'll know how to pronounce this correctly.
Okay, he's calling Michael Schur because we have apparently 2 new teams coming to the MLS. We know that the New York City new team is coming in 2015, playing their soccer at the Yankee Stadium. And now there's going to be a new Los Angeles team, right? 2017. Jason, you share any details on that?
I believe they'll be playing where the Galaxy plays, at the Stub Hub Center, correct? And I just really like the idea of 2 teams in LA, 2 teams in New York. Nice reignition of the LA-New York rivalry that has gone on in American sports for years.
Yep. It's a good step. Let's just be honest. I'm going to be very honest about how things should be said when it comes to MLS. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say here that this is fantastic and now the world's going to blow up, because you could bring in 30.
Could you do me one favor though?
Yes.
Could you please sugarcoat it?
I'm not going to sugarcoat this.
All right.
This is TYT. This is authenticity. Sugarcoat. I'm mad as hell right now. Anyway, right. So the thing is, you can bring in 30 teams, but you need to bring in players. People come to watch the players, and as long as people keep treating the MLS as a retirement home, that is when this will never really expand into that level. I mean, don't get me wrong, bringing in new teams is going to bring in new sponsors, is going to bring in money, and football players love money. That's the bottom line. Frank Lampard is going to New York City, great move, but he's going to retire soon. It's a retirement home. You need to bring in players like, I know you said, Jason, it wasn't ridiculous, which is surprising, that players in their prime, what happens if they come to the MLS? That will switch things up so much. You get a James Rodriguez from the World Cup coming to the MLS, then we can start to talk.
But you were saying yesterday that who has the budget of
Manchester City and Manchester United, when they played in the Manchester Derby, if I'm pronouncing that one correctly, their combined payrolls was $1.2 billion.
I don't think right now there is no. I don't know where that money would come from to be able to pay those players that kind of money.
Yeah, it's a true statement. I mean, it's all.
I don't want to sugarcoat it.
It's down to sponsors. I mean, and I know you guys have wage caps in America. That's a big thing in the UK and Europe. There's no wage caps. Cristiano Ronaldo, I think, makes equivalent of $450,000 a week, the highest paid athlete in the world. And there's people, they'll go to money. Manchester City came into oil wealth from a baron, and I think in the Middle East, huge amount of money, and they won the league in 2 seasons because they bought an enormous amount of players, paid them so much money, and that's the way it goes.
What's interesting, it seems, and you tell me if I'm wrong, when there was an ability to buy whatever player you wanted in Major League Baseball, which there still is, but the luxury tax in MLB is working in that teams don't want to pay it because it is prohibitive to even the Dodgers with all their money are trying to get their salary under $200 million next year. But in the 80s, when the Yankees were buying free agent after free agent and seemingly stocking up on all-stars, a few teams have tried it. It basically hasn't worked. In football, even with the salary cap, when you at least front load the team with stars, as Washington has done with its incompetent owner Dan Snyder from the moment he got there, star after star. Big free agent signings in the NFL don't seem to work, even prior to a salary cap. The all-star team concept has really just worked once that I can think of in American sports, and that's where it seemed to work with the Heat. It definitely worked with the Heat. They went to 4 straight finals. They won twice.
The Yankees did win a World Series, or they bought a World Series in 2007, 6, where...
No, I don't think they did. I don't think they bought that. I mean, the core of that team was still, you know, it was still Jeter and Posada and Mariano and Pettit and trades they made, and those guys still came up with the organization. Look, the Yankees being able to add star pitchers matters, and you know so it just. But in soccer, what I'm getting at is that it seemed to work in the NBA with a team of 3 stars and a bunch of other players around them. But although it took having the best player there is.
Yes, of course.
And in a game with only 5 guys on the court at a time.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
But here, it seems to work. Like, you can do it. You can teach guys you can get 11 great players or 10 great players, or what do they? So what's the most you do? What is it? The team had 7 or 8 great players?
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. So in the basketball, it's a great comparison in terms of the caps, but it's hard to compare because if you have 3 amazing players, there's only 5 guys on the court. Those 3 their influence in the game is unanimous. It's amazing. You can change the game because there's 3 best players. In soccer, you can have like Cristiano Ronaldo, best player in the world. He's got some good players with him on Portugal, but they didn't do shit. They didn't get anywhere because there's only a certain amount you can do.
So what do you need?
You need a core. I mean, this is into tactics. You can watch our tactics video. You need the core. You can buy the best wingers in the world, like Manchester United have done right now. Falcao, Di Maria. These guys, they spent an enormous amount of money, but they don't have a strong back four. The defense, they concede a lot of goals, and therefore they're not at the same quality as the other teams around them. You need a good manager. We talked about this yesterday. And managers are important. You can't buy managers, but you can lure them in the contract. That's one thing I don't see as much in American sports. Like Jose Mourinho, manager of Chelsea, best manager in the world in my view. He got lured to Real Madrid because of the sheer amount of resources he would have there. Now he's back at Chelsea because he knows that, again, another wealthy club, he can do his damage there. But yeah, money is a huge influence on it, but you do need to have a core value. You do need to have, probably, in my view, at least 5 or 6 players. You need world-class players if you want to like completely change over a team.
5 or 6.
Yes.
But it does seem to work. Like you could do it and they'll learn to play together.
Yes, and it will take a couple of years. Sometimes it takes longer. But that's the perspective that you have. So to go back to the MLS, bringing in more teams is going to bring in more sponsorship, which is going to bring in more money, which could do that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I live in the United States now, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah,
and I want the MLS to do better because I want to play here. I want to watch the sport more here. I want to talk about it more. I want to go to games without feeling as if I'm going to a fucking carnival, sitting next to my fan and being like, yo, it's a good game. And he's like, oh, I'm just here to sing and play with
the MLS too. The LA Galaxy, when they faced the Sounders, got a pretty good TV rating.
Seattle Sounders?
Seattle Sounders.
I've been to one soccer game in the United States of America in my life. I went to like 1980. I went to the Seattle Sounders and the Diplomats, the Dips.
Oh, the Dips.
And the Dips won it 3-2 in a nasal game, North American Soccer League game. And the Dips had a player at that time named Ken Mokajoa.
Okay.
And it led to a great, and he had a up and down season. And the headline in the Washington Post was, Ken Mokajoa, confused dip. That was one of the great headlines of all time.
Bring it back to 2014.
Sure. Okay, well, let me bring it back to 2014. Like, they're bringing in these other teams. Like, let's keep it real. Let's not sugarcoat it. They folded a team to bring in this other team there. We've had 2 teams in LA. It didn't work. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And so Chivas I don't know. We were looking on YouTube debate. I was calling Michael Schur because he would know how to pronounce it. YouTube says Chivas.
Francis Maxwell says Chivas.
Francis Maxwell says Chivas. Anyway, you don't have to worry about it because unless you're drinking it, you can't go see them play because they're done. And they folded. They were here in LA in an attempt to appeal to the Latin American market here. That didn't work. So now the theory is what? That 2 teams, the Galaxy and this other unnamed team, will...
LAFC.
I think we have the logos too.
So the LAFC, does that mean that they're called Football Club?
No, they haven't, but none of that is, I read actually, unbelievably, I don't know what possessed me. It must have been somewhere where there were no other stories to read. Those are not official logos yet. They haven't picked names or colors. They just went sort of standard.
I like the New York City one though.
The New York City one is actually pretty good.
So is this not going to create another debate if they're called LAFC? Which, do you know what FC means in European terms? Football club?
Yeah.
So now they're called LA Football Club.
Oh, is that going to create? First of all, it's not going to create a debate. There's not going to be
there's going to be a debate.
No one's going to be debating
I'm debating this.
Literally, no one will be debating this.
I just debated it, and I'll put it on the table. LA Football Club. Football is coming to America.
It's already been here, and we already don't care.
And we had this conversation in the World Cup, remember?
But that said, if we... I will say that I will concede this to you is that if the best players come, then people would care because also then what would also translate, I presume to some extent, is then the world would care.
Yes.
And I don't think it necessarily has to be just the best players. It can be any young, talented player to come and play in the MLS.
It can't just be
Ronaldo and Messi isn't coming.
It can't just be David Beckham when he is clearly
37 years old,
36-year-old, 37-year-old guy, and it's LA, and it just the transparency of it, of getting the most handsome athlete in the world at the end of his career to come here is not going to transform the game.
That I thought of it, I thought by that point in his career, his wife was making decisions. David, I want to go to LA. David, I want to go to Paris, because he went to Paris after it. I mean, it wasn't his. He did still do well career-wise, but that's not the idea behind it. But I will concede this last point. 2017 is when LA. This new team is going to be played.
Can't wait.
That's a year before the next World Cup, to be honest. And we've seen the boom in the World Cup, so it is a good time when you think about it.
There's already a team here. What are they? They were already two. You were falling for their fucking jive, and it's jive.
Jivis?
It's jive. It's Jeeves, man. It's Jeeves.
All right, well, I mean, it's positive steps, baby steps, we need it. If anybody's watching, Ronaldo, anyone, if you want to come play the MLS, don't come here when you're 34 and you want to just hang up your boots in Hollywood and hang out with the stars. Please come when you're still in the prime so I can watch some competitive football.
And take $27 million less a year and come here.
But I will say, Portland Timbers and Seattle Sounders, whatever those guys are doing, do it more. Because it's so competitive up there, and they do a lot better. They do better.
And you know, I got we have a contributor to TYT Sports, Craig Bernbach, who's an anchor in Portland, and he says the city is the Timbers are very much part of the fabric of Portland. People talk about them, people care, people go to the game. So yeah, it can be done. I do not think it's going to happen here in Los Angeles with a second team.
Okay, we just seen it here.
A different second team.
Leave your comments in the section below. Let us know what you think. Subscribe to TYT Sports. Thank you.